Item 6, an informational report from the Oakland Police Department that addresses ShotSpotter. There are no speakers on this item.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Paul Figueroa, Interim Assistant Chief with the City of Oakland. We will provide a report, and providing that report tonight will be Captain Joyner, who runs the ceasefire unit for the Oakland Police Department.
Hi, good evening, Public Safety Committee. Thank you for having me, and good evening to the ladies and gentlemen here in the audience. I'm Captain Ursi Joyner of the Oakland Police Department, offering an informational report for acceptance in regards to ShotSpotter, its current usage, system design, and how it's been implemented in the City of Oakland. This report details the historical perspective in regards to the initial 2006 implementation to how we're currently using it now. Additionally, in this report is information in regards to the fiscal impact, in regards to what we paid yearly for ShotSpotter, the audits conducted in regards to ShotSpotter, reference in regards to a 2012 report done by the City Auditor's report in regards to how we were not using ShotSpotter effectively and what we've done to address that. I'd be more than happy to use this time more effectively to answer any questions in regards to the submission of this report.
Chief, can you, for the members of the public, go over the financial, the analysis? I believe there was an annual cost of $200,000 plus, and
Yes.
we're asking for additional. Go ahead.
Captain Joyner, as a project manager, knows the specifics much more than I am. Happy to give you my overview, but I think his could be more specific.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Currently, we have what's called a hybrid version of ShotSpotter. Initially in 2006, we covered a little bit over 6 miles of our city where we purchased and leased the equipment. We pay an $84,000 a month fee for that. When in 2011, when council asked for a new report to enter back into contract with ShotSpotter, we also did an expansion at the same time, taking us up to 13.3 square miles in our city. This expansion also includes a new business model by ShotSpotter, which is an alert system where we do not own or lease the equipment. This is an additional cost to us of roughly $264,000 a year. So each year to keep ShotSpotter going, we have to pay both of those, the $264 as well as the $84,000 combined, to cover roughly 80% of our city.
Right. So currently we cover 13.2 square miles with
Yes, sir.
ShotSpotter. Just for the public, I think that the public thinks we cover the whole city with ShotSpotter. We don't.
No, what we did, we roughly
Can you
covered...
tell us about the areas that we do cover?
Yes, sir. Back initially in 2006, we had West Oakland covered as well as a majority of East Oakland covered. And the reason why those two areas were selected was through empirical data where violence was taking place in our city. We saw an uptick in violence in the Fruitvale area as well as North Oakland area. So those areas were also incorporated with the 13.3 square miles. And in layman's terms, when you're talking about 13 square miles, we're talking about roughly 80% of our city being covered.
Members of the council, are there any questions? Go ahead.
I know you've talked about how ShotSpotter is important as far as kind of building community trust and, for lack of a better word, kind of trying to confront the no-snitch culture in Oakland. You've talked about how you're integrating it with forensic logic and also using it as part of the ComStat process. Could you give us a little bit more detail about how that integration is working and if there are any additional opportunities that officers could be using this data even more effectively?
Actually, thank you very much. That's an excellent question. In fact, how we're doing ShotSpotter right now, instead of just solely being a response mechanism for officers to get there quickly to the actual spot where the shots were fired, or only an investigative tool technique where investigators are doing ShotSpotter, we have now used that same technology to partner with Forensic Logic, who is a data mining system that mines all of our CAD, which is 911 calls, our report management system, and other mechanisms throughout the city of Oakland that we use vitally in ComStat. And ComStat is a accountability matrix where the Assistant Chief Figueroa holds accountable all 5 of his area commanders in regards to crime trends, crime responses, and staffing issues in that area. What we're able to do right now when we pull up crime numbers, we can pull up the shootings, the murders, the robberies, and then have an overlay with ShotSpotter in regards to where the gunshots are coming in. Where this becomes a huge tool for the police and for the community is, as you know, we use 911 calls and crime locations as hotspot predictors. A lot of times individuals who get shot show up at other locations, at the hospital, and oftentimes give us wrong areas on where they got shot. What we can use now is with ShotSpotter is determine where this happened, anywhere between 5 to 10 meters of the shooting, confirm the time, and officers can respond there. And lastly, to answer your question, Councilmember Schaaf, in regards to the community component, I actually want to share with you that in regards to when we get a call, 911, a lot of times individuals hear gunshots. Even police aren't trained to be able to narrow down where a gunshot comes from. So a lot of times when we looked at an audit, individuals are calling within a quarter mile of where this gunshot happens. And if officers are within a quarter-mile radius, they're doing what they're trained to do. They drive around looking for evidence or looking for something that's suspicious. What that tells the citizen who called in 911 is that police really don't care because they never see officers actually get out the car, engage the community, or for that matter, even know where to start. What we have now with ShotSpotter being pushed out to each car, an officer can respond to the scene within 5 to 10 meters of where the shooting takes place, get out, collect physical evidence that may help us to catch the bad person, as well as interact with community members, which I believe then starts changing the narrative in regards to gun violence in the city, because the community now knows that we actually take gun violence serious. Our elected officials also believe it's serious, and we're engaging them to actually get involved and have dialogue and conversation so we can find out what's happening.
And if I may add, Mr. Chair, it's not just field staff that get this information in real time. It's also on desk computers. We'll oftentimes be in the office and we're in meetings or things, but we're being alerted when these things are happening, and we're able to stop what we're doing and see if we need to assist in some way. And it has a certain sound, so we kind of know when we need to stop what we're doing and step up and make sure that things are being handled. And I do want to just thank Captain Joyner for his leadership in this program for so many years, and really being a champion for it and making it to what it even is today. So thank you.
Do I get a racer?
Let me, just for the members of the public that are here or viewing us on KTOP, give you the statistics for 2013 when it comes to gun crime activity in the city of Oakland. So that the information that I was giving for 2013, every 2 hours a gun is fired in Oakland. Approximately 4 rounds are fired in each gunfire incident. In 2013, a total of 16,557 rounds of gunfire were dispersed throughout the streets of Oakland. And what was the most surprising for me when I saw the map of where the actual shot or the shootings were occurring were right in some of our schoolyards, where they were including this one where they're using the yard as practice to practice their gun and shoot off the gun. And I saw them mapping, and especially at nighttime where some of our schoolyards are being used to shoot off their weapons. And so that's extremely alarming. I think that one is we don't have the staffing necessary in terms of number of officers, but I think this is a tool that is that it will continue to assist our law enforcement to be able to respond to the shootings more rapidly. And at the end, and I've looked at arrest numbers that you provided in terms of from the actual responding to the activity through ShotSpotter. Any other information you may want to share along those lines?
No, just in closing, I want to thank this committee. I know that your work is very difficult and you have difficult decisions to make as far as finances. Currently, it's not funded. Whatever is decided, I understand. But at the end of the day, I just want to leave the message this. We need to change our narrative in regards to how we have this perpetual cycle of violence. ShotSpotter tells us in 2013 we had 4,600 gunshot incidents. Roughly, we had 600, meaning 500 plus shootings, a little under 100 homicides. We focus on those victims. Although that's 4,000 other violent incidents that took place where fortunately no one was hit, but we need to focus on gun violence being a very serious thing. Clearly, this isn't a panacea to stop it, but it's definitely an effective tool moving in the right way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Officer Turner. I just had a couple of questions and follow-up to the report. I'm just curious. You identified that the annual need on this is $348,000 annual, but we spent in 2013 $432,000. And how was that funded, and what accounts for the differentiation?
What those numbers are, I got from fiscal. That was every dime spent to ShotSpotter throughout, broken down by year. What we end up doing is, of course, we work on a fiscal year, whereas they keep it by yearly. So some things were carried over from the last fiscal year that was paid out. Unfortunately, I don't have a breakdown on when it was paid, but that chart is broken out year, January to December. Our annual costs are fiscal year breakdown. And what we end up doing is entering into a contract later on, so there had to be upgrades to network servers, things along those lines that we won't have to incur anymore.
And so, I guess this may not be to you, but maybe to the administration. According to news reports, there are several cities that have been renegotiating with ShotSpotter, particularly around different components, to make it affordable. I think many municipalities are finding this to be priced out of where it could be sustainable. So has the administration looked at this? And then in tandem to that is, when does our current contract with ShotSpotter expire?
Thank you. The current funding and agreement with ShotSpotter expires, I don't have it in front of me, I believe it's August of this year. Is that right, Captain Joyner?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And we are in discussions with them about fundings and things and what it looks like moving into next year. Those are things that I'm not comfortable sharing at this point, just because they're part of discussions.
Okay, so we're in ongoing negotiations. It's my understanding that ShotSpotter can be either, I guess, sort of fielded in our offices or in their headquarters. Like, there's two different models just based on my research. Which one is OPD utilizing? Does it go to ShotSpotter, like in Newark first, and then come to us, or are we triaging and looking at the information?
Very good question. Our first model, and that was one of the things identified through Ms. Ruby's auditor's report, was that when we got alerts, it was coming directly to our communications division. We had one computer. They're extremely overworked. They didn't have staff monitoring the computer, so sometimes we didn't get calls out. Additionally, the staff was not trained to alert the difference between firecrackers, backfires, or gunfire, so we were oftentimes responding to a lot of false alerts. This new ShotSpotter 2.0 system we have currently works similar to this. There's an acoustic sensor. It requires 3 sensors to go off simultaneously to capture this loud acoustic noise. Immediately, that noise is sent to ShotSpotter server, which is at their headquarters, and they have staff that monitors our systems 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This staff then listens to it, weeds out things that are backfires, helicopters, loud bangs, and only sends us gunfire, which then allows our officers to respond with a sense of confidence that they're actually responding to a real gunfire call and the information is accurate. So to answer your question, we don't get alerts until it's actually reviewed by their alert staff at their headquarters.
And so there was discussion about ShotSpotter being integrated into the DAC. And how does that change, or does it not change, if the integration happens at the DAC level in terms of the review? And I want to follow up on the auditory sensor piece in terms of the recordings.
Through the chair to Councilmember McElhaney's question, sorry about that. Well, the way it will be integrated to the DAC, if at all, will be consistent with the policy that was adopted by the council. So we're not there yet. But when that integration happens, I would imagine that it'd be consistent with what was just described by, if it were to happen. Let me qualify that. If it were to happen, I imagine it would be consistent with what Captain Joyner just talked about. We're paying for a service for them to weed out the false alarms, for lack of a better word, and then that more clear information being sent on to wherever we're collecting the data. I would imagine that would remain consistent, since we're not moving to a different way of facilitating, providing us the information.
Through the chair to the administrator, is the notion that if privacies were protected, the integration of ShotSpotter into the DAC is supposed to result in even more precise follow-through than the DAC on DEC system that's current, or is it just a way of aggregating data so that you can begin to look at trends?
So
I wanted to say,
Arturo, if I may, it's my understanding, I don't have the resolution that you approve as the council for the DAC, but that you have directed staff or you requested that they come back with a very limited, narrow DAC. So the city is not contemplating at this time including any existing systems such as ShotSpotter, and I believe the scope of your DAC, as you have authorized, is limited and restricted to port properties and not any other city region where ShotSpotter may be activated. So I just want to remind you that that's what you have approved in terms of a return to council for the DAC.
It was limited in scope. Thank you to the City Attorney's Office. What I would caution is that we're getting off topic on ShotSpotter proper in the contract, and we're having a discussion about very specific items related to the DAC that's not been noticed or in front of this committee at this time. We should hold to the agenda item that was noticed, which is the contract for ShotSpotter. When the DAC information returns, we can have a more involved discussion around how that integration, and that's a big if it happens to be integrated in a way that's consistent with council policy.
Through the chair to the administration, it is my understanding, based on the deployment of the DAC in Phase 1, that ShotSpotter is already integrated into the DAC. That's what was reported to us. So with respect to what's missing in this report, we're not talking about future deployments. We're talking about how it works now in the contemplation, and we did not necessarily limit ShotSpotter even in the DAC 2 discussions around privacy, but it is to come back to us before final decision.
Through the chair, we directed, for better or worse, we directed the administration to remove ShotSpotter from the DAC. You're right, it was in there, and it will be, if not already, it will be shortly removed from the DAC. That's what we were directed to do. I didn't support that direction, but that's what we were directed to do.
I thought it was the discussion. I didn't know that we had finalized that.
No, through the chair, that was the direction that staff received.
That was the prevailing motion. On page 3 of the report, Officer Joyner, when we start talking about there's no recording audio in the area of ShotSpotter, is that audio is only activated when there's a confirmed incident or there's no audio? It's my understanding in some municipalities that audio has been essential in leading to the apprehension of people who were shooting close by or nearby and they could hear.
Yes, to answer your question, there's yes and no. Of course, there's audio sensors that are constantly recording. It takes a loud bang similar to a gunfire to actually activate the sensor to start recording. Then it also takes 3 of the sensors in the same area to activate to push to the network. So there's no thing that's impossible. So I guess if you're a super hacker, maybe you might be able to hack into one sensor, but it does not capture voices similar to how you hear right now. Now, in the event that we have gunfire in this particular area, 3 sensors go off and you hear people yelling, yes, there will be recordings. There's actually been 2 documented cases here in the city of Oakland, which the district attorney's office has used for convictions. One was in a murder, and one was an attempted murder of a police officer. So yes, there are documented cases in that regard, but ShotSpotter has gone through great lengths in terms of privacy to make sure that we're not recording our citizens in public. But yes, if there are the ideal situation, gunshot goes off, 3 sensors activate, and a person is close enough to the sensor where it can be, you can capture voices.
Okay, my last point, Mr. Chairman, that when this item comes back, because this is an informational report, if the administration can identify whether or not there are grants, whether that's at the federal level that might be able to be in support of offsetting any portion of the cost of ShotSpotter, or any other municipalities that have been able to blend that information, and specifically, since it's referenced here in terms of the privacy policy, if we can see the privacy policy as it directly relates to the ShotSpotter system. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just one point of clarification. I just want to be very clear that we're in budget discussions right now, and so we'll see what resources are available. We are not active. We have had communications with ShotSpotter, but we're not actively engaged in negotiations at this point. We have till August and plenty of time to get there. The key discussion for us right now internally is where we stand with the budget and what resources are available, and grants will become part of that conversation.
Yeah, but just for the record, Chief, and to the administrator, your cost summary implications on page 5 clearly it kind of defines what you're asking us to do. It says OPD currently does not have funding for the continuance of this proposed program. Funding will need to be identified outside of the current approved budget to continue this $348,000 yearly expenditure. So, I mean, you're in the, when you talk about looking at a resource, Arturo, so it's within the current budget, the current approved upon budget.
Chairperson
So for the
Gallo,
coming year.
you are correct when you're talking about the current approved year budget. This language relates to this year, 13-14 fiscal, not 14-15, which you'll be dealing with in mid-cycle. And we will be coming forward with a budget. They've asked that we continue funding, and we're going to put that forward to the City Council to consider in late this month, most of June, as you have those budget hearings. So that information will be forthcoming. If I may, just to the privacy policy through the chair to Councilmember McElhaney, to the extent that we can have information back, please remember that we're going through a committee that was developed by the council. There may not be a fully developed privacy policy specifically around the DAC that we can bring back whenever this item comes back. Perhaps we could peel off that issue from this and bring it back at a later date so that it doesn't hold up anything related to ShotSpotter.
Yes, sir. The question was just with respect to, since there was reference that there's a privacy policy in place, I didn't think that the ShotSpotter privacy policy was necessarily, I'm sure that part of the work of the committee is to integrate the city's privacy policies, but it appears that there is a policy in place for ShotSpotter specifically, and that's what I was asking for clarification of.
My error. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks. Is there a motion to accept the
So
report?
moved.
It's been moved, seconded. The item is accepted. Thank you.
Thank you.